Hello everyone, and welcome to a new episode of Gentoo, your source for all things gaming and tech related. I'm Aaron James.
You're back.
I'm back. Forever.
And I'm Wesley Ellington. Let's jump right into this week's up-and-coming releases. You can see these games and many more released throughout the month on your favorite platforms.
This week we got a game all about fancy footwork.
Yeah.
Those are his hands.
My feet were moving, but they can't. A PC game for cats.
Meow. Meow. A long-awaited vampire game.
And a whole lot of Dragon Quest. FIFA 20 comes out for the PC, Xbox One, and PlayStation 4 on September 27th. This game features everything you would expect from a new yearly sports game release. New rosters, reworked physics, new animations, and more Ultimate Team. But also included in this year's release is Volta Football, which hopefully will be a great reminder of what FIFA Street used to be.
Cat Quest 2 releases for the PC on September 24th. In this fast-paced, open-world RPG, you can play as either a cat or a dog as you explore dungeons, complete quests, and slay some monsters. There's also 2-player co-op, and I've got dibs on the cat.
I like dogs anyway, so that works out great for me. Yeah. Code Vein is coming out for the PC, Xbox One, and PlayStation 4 September 27th. Play as a vampire as you fight ruthless monsters in this broken landscape.
Spooky. After The Hero, released for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate earlier this year, Dragon Quest 1, 2, 3, and the definitive edition of 11 are all coming out for the Nintendo Switch on September 27th.
These games and many more will be released throughout the month on your favorite platforms, so be sure to be on the lookout for them. Up next, check out the finer things with Quinn. That's not Quinn.
I'm not Quinn.
It's not even Quinn.
Hey everybody, welcome to an all-new episode of The Finer Things, the show where we examine games for their artistic value. As always, my name is Quinn Foose, and today we'll be discussing a classic, an absolute stunner. That's right, my friends, today's episode is all about renowned developer Naughty Dog's most emotionally charged story, held as one of the best single-player experiences in gaming, The Last of Us. The Last of Us is set in a post-apocalyptic society that was overrun by the cordyceps brain infection, which turned much of the population of at least the United States into clickers, a version of what we call zombies. Don't be fooled, the world is dangerous, sure, that's quite common in these flesh-eater infested worlds that we so often encounter. That isn't the focus here. Naughty Dog is a developer known for its consistent creative prowess, so naturally this is the feature of any work that they put out that stands high above all others. Like most people who've played the game and have anything to say about it, my adoration for this title stems from the deep connection to the story that Naughty Dog fosters in the audience. This mainly comes from Joel and Ellie, our heroes in this tale. Their dynamic is unquestionably one of the most well-crafted that I've seen in video game storytelling. Eventually, the two grow close and form a father-daughter type bond, and I know that just sounds so happy and oh so nice. But trust me, it's not as happy-go-lucky as you may think if you've not gotten hands-on with the game before. The way that they got to that point in their relationship is full of fear and violence, not just beauty. Storytelling really takes the cake with this one. The sound design is solid, of course, and the graphics are great, but they aren't really anything to write home about, especially since the art style is just straight realism. I will, however, concede that the facial animations are incredible. Can't ignore that one.
Okay.
Moving on though, Naughty Dog knows what it's doing when it comes to the storytelling craft. The main story between Joel and Ellie is crazy, but just as much praise can be given to the side stories and the lore of the world. Without these elements, the main story would suffer. These are the times when the world is truly brutal. For those of you who have played the game, I would refer to when Joel and Ellie meet Sam and Henry. For those of you who haven't, check out the game right now. The Last of Us was the first game that the story has stuck with me for a long time after it was over. Luckily, we won't have to sit in eternal ignorance of the implications of the vague ending of the game's narrative. The Last of Us Part 2 was announced at the PlayStation Experience event in 2016, and while a release date still hasn't been given to us, we can most likely expect the game sometime in 2020. Make sure to check out The Last of Us before Part 2 comes out so you're all caught up with the rest of us, and thank you guys for joining me today on The Finer Things. Make sure not to miss the next episode when we examine a new game. Thanks for watching.
Greetings and salutations, I'm Nathaniel Cochran and welcome to D&D for Dummies. This week, we're taking a look at how to make a character. So this is Bob, and Bob wants to start playing D&D. His friend has invited him to play in his newest campaign, but he has to make his own character, and he has no idea how to start. So his DM sent him a copy of the 5th edition Player's Handbook so he can learn how to get started. The Player's Handbook is key in helping players understand everything that goes on in the game. It details all of the things I'll be going over in the series, but I'll be using less gooder words so I can keep it simple. Making a character is broken up into simple parts. You start by picking a race, then a class, then you determine your ability scores, and then you describe who your character is as a person, typically through a backstory or just kind of getting a general idea of what aesthetic you're. In my opinion, these choices are the most important because they will determine how you play the entire game. If you make a character that you can't relate to or you don't enjoy playing, the overall game's going to suffer because you're not having fun. On the other side of things, making a perfect character isn't important either. Having perfect stats and the perfect race-class combo can be boring, or even worse, cause a divide in your party. The game's not just about you and your desire to kill everything. There are other people who want to kill things too. Alright, so now let's get down into the nitty-gritty mechanics of how you make a character. When you pick your race, consider who the person you're trying to make is in the world that they're playing in. Are they stereotypical for their race? Or are they an outlier? Just because you play a dwarf doesn't mean you always have to be Gimli from Lord of the Rings. Maybe your dwarf is more sensitive and likes nature. Next up is picking a class. Put simply, the class will determine what skills you use inside and outside of combat. After you pick your class, then you roll your ability scores. Ability scores are used to determine how your actions play out in game, whether it's attacking with a sword or trying to charm the pants off an ogre. Your ability scores will be increased based on what race and have an effect on which class you might want to play. After you figure out your scores, then you figure out what equipment your character is going to have. Each class has a list of starting equipment, but work with your DM and see if you can't use the equipment list found in Chapter 5. Finally, you make your backstory. All of these concepts that I've been talking about come together in your character's backstory. Was your character mistreated because of their race? Did your character decide to become a rogue because they're trying to feed their family? Does your character have a hard time talking to people because of their low charisma score? All of these elements can make a good backstory, and when your DM knows these elements, they can throw some of those elements back into the game, making a fun plotline for your party and your friends based around your character. It looks like I'm out of time this week, but for next week, we're going to go over the rest of the races in D&D, starting with the big little race with a smile on its face, the Halfling. I'm Nathaniel Cochran, and you're watching Gentoo.
Yeah, it's about time, man. I've been waiting to play NBA Street on Game Breakers for a year now. I've got everything I need. I've got the TV, I got the PS2, and I've got the converter. It's about time to... You're just gonna plug it in, maybe a little fiddle to plug it in. If I just move it around. Oh man, oh my gosh, bro, can't believe this, man. Oh my gosh, man. You know what? I gotta come up with something new to play, and I don't even like playing PS4 no more, man. I don't even want to play 2K or Madden or UFC. I think I'll play UFC. That's right, guys. This week we were playing UFC 3, and we will be previewing the UFC 243 main event of Robbie Whittaker, the middleweight champion, versus the challenger, Israel Adesanya. Now, with UFC 3, simulating a fight can be either easy or incredibly hard, depending on the two fight styles that you go for. But luckily I have two strikers, and simulating this isn't really complex. So I decided to play as the fighter that I believe is winning the fight, as Israel Adesanya. Israel's game relies heavily on switching his stance as well as striking the leg, and honestly I tried to use that as best as I possibly could against Robbie Whittaker, but he's a phenomenal striker. But I noticed something about this particular fight, that Robbie Whittaker was kind of trash. I mean, he's a middleweight champion, and he really just wouldn't get kicked in the face as hard as I kicked him in the face. So I decided to switch the difficulty to Legendary, which is the hardest difficulty in UFC 3. And honestly, this is one of my favorite parts about UFC 3. You can feel the difference immediately. I mean, this time Robbie Whittaker came out throwing strikes, and I got kind of scared because I thought I was about to get butt kick for this video, and I didn't want that to happen for you guys. And honestly, it made for a much more realistic version of Robbie Whittaker. I mean, in real life, Robbie Whittaker just doesn't sit around and get his face kicked in. He's very good at using range, and he's honestly able to get off the center line and use his head movement for his advantage. I honestly see this fight being the toughest fight for both of these fighters' careers. Unlike I've done with these two fights, I do not predict Israel Adesanya knocking out Robbie Whittaker in the first round. I mean, the last two fights that these guys have been 5-round war of attritions, and I don't see this fight being any different. So that's my final pick, Israel Adesanya by decision in the 5th round. And that's all for this week on Game Breakers. Thank you for joining me for another episode, and make sure to tune in next week where we hopefully will be able to play NBA Street Volume 1. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for Cooper Challenge Arena, right here on Gentoo.
Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Cooper Challenge Arena. It's Cooking Mama time, folks. It's what you've been waiting for, and it's here. And of course, we have our special guest, Bradley Justice, the producer of Weekend Sports Kickoff and Channel 8 News.
Touche.
This is how it's going to work. It's simple. Each week, there's a new game, a new challenge, and a new competitor trying to climb to the ranks in the Cooper Challenge Arena. We're going to cook a couple dishes on here, Bradley, and whoever has the best score at the end is the winner.
Okay.
And whoever has the least score, well, they're going to have that spicy feast.
All right, well,
I think we're going to, let's cook some beef with wine sauce. What do you think?
all right, let's do it.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Ooh. So each part will be explained.
Hit you,
There we go.
but I'll do
Yeah,
this for the win.
Randy. There we go.
It's so hard.
It's so hard. Who made this game?
Why is it so hard to peel this?
Yeah, there we go. Oh, you gotta do it.
Let's go.
No, I'm not losing. No!
Okay, so I barely beat you though.
Spread the butter. Okay. All right, I can do this.
But it's like frozen.
No, I didn't get it all. Oh, neat. Oh.
I burnt something. I think I burnt.
Oh no, it burned two things. Okay, I'm finished.
What? I'm hitting it.
Medium.
Oh, what?
Oh, let's go.
I just ruined my whole dish.
Oh.
Oh,
Let's go.
Knew it. Called it.
Okay.
I ruined the last part. Got flan.
Custard flan.
Because you don't want to hit it too hard on the.
Do not mind. Do not
I'm on
mind.
a bowl.
Do not
Oh,
mind.
never mind. I didn't get it right. I haven't gotten one right yet. Alternate ways. Alternate ways. Screw it. Let's go.
Oh no!
Let's go. Oh no. Oh, I went too fast. No, I ruined it. Okay, we gotta adjust the oven.
So you just gotta kind of. Oh, there we go.
Do we need to see the result?
Yeah, we need to see that.
It's just
506. Let's go, folks. It's over.
My name is Bradley Justice, and I lost the Keegan Cooper Challenge. He beat me in Cooking Mama. So my challenge is to eat or consume this, which is just hot sauce. So I guess the, bon appetit, Cooking Mama style, going straight in. Ooh, it's going, oh, sorry, it was a chip. That was a chip in the throat more than the hot sauce. Don't get it twisted. Don't get it twisted. I'll go all day with this, man. Oh yeah.
Oh! Somebody! Oh! He needs some milk!
Not even needed.
November 8th, 2019 will see the release of Death Stranding. The mysterious title is the first game released from Hideo Kojima, creator of Metal Gear Solid, since being fired by Konami in 2019. Wasting no time, Kojima started Kojima Productions and confirmed it was a first-party PlayStation developer. In 2016, the reveal trailer for Death Stranding released and left people with more questions than answers about the game. That's been par for the course leading up to this game's release, as we were only given the smallest glimpses of gameplay, having players question how the gameplay loop might play out. It wasn't until this month that Kojima revealed over 40 minutes of gameplay and spoke on some of the features we could be expecting. While I'm sure there's still much more of the game being kept under wraps, I'd be hard-pressed to say that what's been shown hasn't got me excited for the release of this game. The player character Sam will be able to navigate multiple terrains, from high mountains to dense forests, snowy areas, rivers, and even the rubble of modern buildings. There's going to be headquarters, enemy bases, and safe houses to explore. It's going to be an open world game on which you're going to be free to explore however you want. Sam will also make use of his bike, which is believed to be called Endurance. There have been screenshots where it's been seen holding his gear and items, which means a system similar to Red Dead Redemption 2's horses could be applied. You might be able to carry around your weapons and packages on your motorcycle, which could add an interesting feature of inventory management and storage, which is already in the game. However, I believe the most fascinating aspect comes from Kojima's intent of making connections. As far as we know, there's going to be asynchronous online gameplay similar to Dark Souls' message system. It's going to allow players to help other travelers without ever crossing paths. It's been said that you'll be able to send supplies, share safe houses, and even walk in the footsteps of fellow couriers as you reunite civilization. The main goal is to make deliveries in this game. Players will have the option of piling several boxes on Sam's back to make use of levitation units to transport them and also to attach boxes on both your arms and legs. You can even ride those levitation units as hoverboards. The little things like this are one of the reasons I'm most excited to play. I'm sure there's going to be countless little interactions like this in the game that will be a joy to discover. My number one complaint and concern about Death Stranding is the same as it has been since day one, which is that everything is based off of Kojima. With most games, I could say, yeah, Naughty Dog does a good job or Bungie does a good job, but this seems like it's 100% on Kojima. Thus far, every comment I've seen has been something along the lines of, he made Metal Gear, he did this, he did that, he's the best, he is Kojima. Even if that's absolutely all true, there's countless examples of great people making mistakes. With that said, I do hope that Death Stranding will live up to all of its ambition. Thanks for watching KNWT Channel 8. This was Aaron.
Hello everyone and welcome back to a new episode of Project Delta. I'm Dalton Spies and with me this week is...
I'm Nathaniel Cochran, back again.
And this week, and hopefully Nathaniel can tell us about a game we haven't really talked about a whole lot. So Nathaniel, my first question I want to ask is with Greedfall, and I've watched a few videos online, and I want to know where exactly does this game take place? Like I've seen it looks kind of like around the 1600-ish area. I'm not 100% sure.
Greedfall is completely fictional.
Of course.
You start, they call it the continent, and you're from the city of Serdi. Everything is super French because it's made by French developers. So everything is so you start in the city of Serdi, and you go to the island of Tirfredi, and you go to the city of New Serdi.
So many Serdis.
Yes. It has a 17th century or 16th century colonial aesthetic.
So I was close, is what you're trying to say.
I mean, yes, sort of. But there's flintlock weapons and you're fighting natives. The whole story is about colonialism, but it's not set in any real capacity, which is really nice.
So, of course, one of the most important things that makes a good RPG are classes that are fun to play. So what are some of the classes you can play as in the game, and which ones interest you the most?
So, this actually has wrong button. This actually has a class system that I really enjoy. So, as you can see, there is warrior, mage, and then technician, I think is what they call it.
Okay.
And basically, warrior is one-handed, two-handed weapons, combat abilities. Technician is explosives, traps, grenades. You can poison your weapons, and then you're better with guns. Magic is you use your magic ring and another spell, and you unlock more spells as you go. But as you can see, there are these skill trees in the middle, and I'm currently perked into a Christmas combination here, a little bit of red-green.
Very nice.
Where, I just realized I'm pointing at a screen. Anyway, where I've combined Technician and Warrior together. And I actually am really enjoying it. It kind of makes the gameplay a little bit more like Bloodborne because I'm using my gun and sword a lot more, but I can also do things like light my sword on fire.
And see, that brings me into my next question, which is another thing that goes into great RPGs is weapon selection. I know how much you enjoy big hammers in Monster Hunter and how much you enjoy heavy-hitting weapons in general. So have there been any weapons or weapon classes that have caught your eye in Greedfall yet?
Well, as you can see, I have my giant sword.
Big sword boy right there.
Yes, I have my anime sword, but it's actually based off of real swords.
Allegedly.
No, it's a real sword. It's actually really cool because they call the first great sword you can get as Zweihander, which is a real weapon from Germany. So yeah, I've so far been liking the weapon combination. I was hoping to use a musket a little bit more, but I found that pistols work better for my playstyle because I can just combo into shooting just like that.
Yeah.
Right now I have a pepperbox pistol, which is a 4-shot flintlock weapon.
Ooh.
And so I'm just gonna kill this cow. I don't actually know any of the creatures' names. I've just been giving them. It's an R. Can you say that? Andrig?
It's a create your own adventure kind of thing here going on. Yeah. So what would you say is the #1 thing that interests you the most when you were thinking about picking up this game in the first place?
Well, I saw the aesthetic of it and I really liked it. I love Bloodborne's aesthetic, the Lovecraftian, Victorian era stuff.
Of course.
But then as I started seeing more trailers, like, oh no, we have a robust class system too. Oh, on top of the class system, we also have companions and possible romance options and stuff.
Ooh.
Romance options.
Romance.
Kiss me. No, but they really did a good job of reminding me of one of my favorite games ever, Dragon Age Origins. Which, I mean, I have a tattoo from Dragon Age. That's how much I love the franchise.
So at least a little bit. You like it at least a little bit.
Yeah, at least enough to get it permanently on my body. But yeah, it's the draw was really that it's a ambitious RPG that really reminds me of something from the early 2000s, where a lot of RPGs nowadays are established IPs like the Elder Scrolls or even Dragon Age.
Yeah.
They have an existing franchise to fall back on and pull from, where they created their whole world fresh.
Of course. And now, Nathaniel, ever since Dark Souls came out, it seems everybody and their mother wants to jump into the action RPG game. This is, in fact, a new IP from Spiders. So do you think this is a good showing for a new IP, or are they just jumping on the bandwagon? Oh,
no, it's a very great showing. I reference how it seems like they've taken some things, but really it stands very strongly on its own. I'm gonna kill this goat.
No, not the goat.
Come here.
Oh, it's just too fast.
Gonna shoot it.
No.
Oh, damn it, I missed.
Wow.
You don't have to aim with the guns, side note, and you can just straight up shoot whatever.
Sounds like Fortnite.
Got him. But yeah, I think they've made a very good showing on their own as a standalone IP.
That's good. So I want to know, have you ever played any of the developer Spiders' other titles? I know that they made Technomancer. Have they made any other titles that interested you?
Not necessarily. They made a Plague's Tale, which is pretty cool looking. It's a very good story game. But I watched it on YouTube because I didn't really feel like paying $60 to see a movie. Hello, bats.
Oh no, not Bruce Wayne.
Exactly. Yeah, but a Plague's Tale would probably be the only spider. Did I just die? I wasn't watching my health. I died.
Weak.
Oh my god.
Weak.
Bum, bum, ba-da.
You are continuing the trend of us dying like every week on Delta. We die. I got ran over by a train last week. Quinn wasn't so hot in Borderlands, and now here we go.
Oof. Oh my god, I wasn't watching my health at all.
So are there any other RPGs you can compare this game to? I know you've talked about Dragon Age Inquisition, but I've also seen other people comparing it to one of my favorite RPGs of all time, The Witcher 3. So is there anything else that you could compare it to besides Dragon Age?
I see a little bit of The Witcher in it. I can see why people say that. The quest line is very similar to The Witcher, where it's kind of open-ended, and then boom, here's another side quest, boom, here's another side quest, and here's contracts to do also. But I would also say combat-wise, it very much took inspiration from Dark Souls, where they wanted, or I'd even say closer to Bloodborne, where they wanted fluid combat, where you don't die, but where you're dodging and parrying attacks to make sure that you're not getting hit, especially in the tree that I'm in. Like my entire tree gave me a dodge roll.
Well, I cannot say I'm surprised that you picked the warrior tree. That was it's not really out of character for Nathaniel, and I know how he likes to play games, and it's
damn right it's not.
The more damage, the better. But you've been called out before for being the only person that enjoys trash games regularly.
How dare you? Fallout 76 is okay.
Some of the examples being Fallout 76 and one of EA's biggest flops, Anthem. So do you think this is a genuinely good game, or is it just another trash game that only Nathaniel likes?
Is it a Nathaniel good game? No, I think it genuinely has some good moments. To be critical of it, I'm not really critical of any of the actual game design or gameplay, but there are some story elements that could use work. A lot of the writing is kind of, I don't want to say melodramatic, but overly intense. Like they saw Dragon Age and they're like, oh, you want to get involved in your character's backstory as soon as possible. So the first time I met this character, I was literally like, you talk about your mother all the time, but you never talk about your father. Like, I don't know her. This is the first time I met her. Like, you know, but they have that and some of the other quirky things from earlier RPGs. That's why I keep comparing it to an early 2000s RPG, where like there was a scene where this guy, I was trying to get this guy to drink his own potion because he was selling it to people and he was kind of a shyster.
Those darn shysters.
And in the cutscene, we're like, drink the potion. He was like, here, I'll show you. And then it cuts to black, and then he drinks the potion because they didn't animate him drinking the potion.
Now that is top tier laziness. But actually, Nathaniel, I'm gonna have to cut you off because we're at our time limit. You sure do know about this game a lot more than I do, and I thank you for that. But I'm Dalton Spies, and I had
Nathaniel Cochran, who just got hit by a buffalo.
And we'll see you next week on Project Delta.